The following program deals with a controversial subject. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation.
The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
The top talents in the comic book business are here to tell everything they know.
This is a new show that we're doing. This is going to be our Industry of Comics show live. It's going to be Tuesday nights. We're going to try and keep a Tuesday night schedule. Think of it the night before Wednesdays, right? As Dennis likes to call it. 'Twas the night before Wednesday. And yeah, we're going to talk industry stuff. And I'm the guy that doesn't know anything that gets to ask all the stupid questions, right, Jesse?
Oh, yeah, exactly. And, it's kind of funny that we kind of created this name because, everything technically 50% was happening on Tuesday and then 50% on Wednesday. And now we have this huge pivot and shift to where now, no, Wednesday is now the big day again. And I think that's bodes very well, not just for retailers, but I think it bodes well for customers because, what we had to look at is sensitivity for customers. Do they have time? Do they want to come back 2 days? Some customers don't care, right?
Yeah.
We found out over the years that customers just want their comics, so they don't care what day they come out. And most customers, like in my case, come in Thursday and Friday, don't even come in on Tuesday or Wednesday. So that's kind of the funny thing there.
Yeah. Well, basically what we're going to do, you guys, is we're going to talk about current events, current stuff that's going on in the industry world, and try and give a little peek in on the inside. That was kind of always the thing about the industry show, is that we wanted to give the collectors out there, people like me, people who come from a totally different world than a industry, person, pro, whatever you want to call it. So we got this week. We're going to talk about Comics Pro. Comics Pro happened this last weekend in Pittsburgh. So some interesting stories. I'm sure we're going to get into with that. And then we are also going to talk about the life of a retailer, especially the life of an online retailer. So and both, right?
Right.
He has a store too. So Bryan's Comic is shutting down the plant. It sounds like. So,
right. And what's great about this new shift is even myself, where I say, okay, I got a store. It's in Arizona. I'm now based out of Florida, but I can run a store, 8,000 square foot store with everything going on and still have a business in Florida, which just does as much business and it's just live streaming. So I have an 8,000 square foot store in Arizona and a 200 square foot store in Florida that do almost exactly the same business. And that's the new business model that is slowly happening with a lot of stores across the nation. So that's it's a good trend for many. That maybe can't hold down the rent and the insurance and the Cox cable and phone numbers and mass employees, shipping. Mm-hmm. You start going through all these things. And then when you build your live stream company, it's like, wow, you cut your expenses by 90%, 95%, right? Yep. And so that's where I think you're going to see this trend go to where a lot of people will look at the store model and when they get to their budget, say, well, kind of smarter not to have a store.
Yeah, right? There is good reasons for which we will get into for this during these shows immensely. Trust me. We'll be talking about the fun stuff that you guys want to hear also, the collection stories and, the selling stories and all the cool, backroom stuff. But I think it's also important to understand the world of comics from the industry side, because we say a lot of things on the speculator collector side that makes no sense to you guys. You're always, you and Dennis are always telling me like, you got what are you talking about? You have no idea what you're talking about with this. This is why.
Right, exactly. Yeah, even Reeve, who's saying he doesn't understand where Wednesdays come in. Us old school folks remember Fridays, right? Was new issue days. But even when it gets to retailers, there's a reason why you don't see a lot of retailers on having their own shows, because there's a lot of things we technically can't talk about or shouldn't talk about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Most comic book fans want to be comic book fans and they don't want to hear all that other stuff that goes on. They just want their comics. I've never had a comic book fan walk into my store and say, what distributor do you get your books from?
Yeah.
Right. The only thing they say is, why isn't my book here? And,
Yeah.
and they don't care about the rest of the stuff. So industry stuff, very, very interesting. I think when the third party gets in here, we'll be able to elaborate on a grander scale
Mm-hmm.
on exactly each topic we're talking about as well.
So the plan going forward for this, guys, is we're going to have this show open to other shop owners, other retailers, other industry pros, creators. That's kind of the plan moving forward, to do as much live content for this show as possible. Now, we will still do recorded content and edited content because it just works better for certain people when you're interviewing them. But it's fun to do it live and to do this stuff on the fly. I have more fun doing it on the fly than I do sitting here editing a video for a week. But so if you guys have any people that you want to come on the show, let us know. Give us, drop some comments below. Tell us if there's anybody that you think would be cool to come on the show. I'm going to give you a name of somebody that's going to be on here soon. We're going to have Emmett from Havens for Heroes coming on here soon, so that'll be fun. He was recently big in the social media spin cycle for his little "Get Off My Lawn" video posts. He seemed to piss everybody off. He does this "Get Off My Lawn" post about CGC, and then he "Get Off My Lawn" post about Comicsgate, and then a "Get Off My Lawn" post about this and that, and it's fun to watch it. And
it's funny because you kind of think about it, and if you're like a guy that says, hey, come join me on my lawn, you don't get a lot of conversation about sportsmanship and how you react with other retailers across the nation. So your job socially is kind of to be right in the middle, where people really don't know what direction you then go on every topic. And I think that's a good positive thing there.
Your guys' social sphere or area is very interesting because you've been in this game for a long time, right? And you've been in this game before there was an internet, before there was a Facebook, and it seems like back then that the social aspect was really taking place at these cons and stuff, and you guys would all go to cons, right? Or I mean, how did that work?
Yeah. No, there was. You got to keep in mind, we've come to a point now where if you go to a con, let's just go to a retailer summit, and you spend all this money to go to this retailer summit, and San Diego, New York, Comics Pro, whatever it is, to find out your friends are actually getting that didn't go or getting their information at literally the same time.
Yeah.
So you're getting the information. So now it becomes, how important is it to meet face and face and shake people's hands? 10 years ago, that was great to go and shake people's hands and walk into a room and not know anybody, then walk out 5 days later after going to the after parties on all that cool stuff, knowing a good portion of people. And I think handshakes in the comic book world are much more important than a nod on a live stream show. But we've seen this again change. Budgets are tight. Not a lot of people can go to Pittsburgh. A lot of retailers can't go to San Diego Con, and definitely a lot of retailers can't go to New York Comic Con. And so I think the social realm still stay tight into forums.
Facebook's a big place for retailers. It seems right. You guys do a lot of contacting, talking to each other, and you guys have a very interesting language.
Exactly. It's a whole different language, but I think it's a lot of things is what you do beyond that forum that represent you when you go into
Yeah.
that forum. And that's very, very important. I'm very staunch on customer service, and I don't believe in the let's go on Facebook and talk bad about a customer because they gave you a negative on eBay. No, just go sell more books, dude.
Yeah.
I just had a guy give me 110 neutrals. Now eBay's taking it off, but even before I said anything, I was already putting more books up and doing more shows.
Yeah.
So yeah, the social awareness is a lot different. And I think as you see people that haven't acclimated to it, they are what we just call comic book store owners. They really don't have a venture outside of their door. And in this day and age, your reach outside of your door has to be massive. I mean, you have to have this massive, massive reach, to the point that the old days would be, hey, I'm in your backyard. That means I opened up a store in Houston. Now it's, no, I'm in your backyard because I'm selling your customer base in Houston. That's the difference in social awareness. And it takes a lot. It's a lot of work. I would say it takes a lot more work to do social work than it does actually take to run a store.
That's very interesting. That is very, very interesting, because I think that's where there's this big group of younger cats that are coming into the game that utilize that social media to the nth degree, right? And
Right.
utilize it well. Where a lot of some of the old school guys maybe don't use it that much, or care for it that much.
I think the key is the young guys and gals that you talk about, they're born into this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So their generation is, hey, you're 4 years old, here's your phone.
Yep.
Right. You're 6 years old, here's your iPad.
Yeah.
Where, I'm 18-year-old getting my first Atari with a joystick. Right. That's the big difference. And I think we need to make sure that my job is to make sure someone doesn't say to me, well, you've been doing this 42 years, so you don't understand what's going on socially. My job is to turn around then and say, no, let me show you how to do this socially, and make this a very positive thing for your brand and your community.
Yeah. So we're going to get into a lot of interesting stuff on this show, you guys. If you guys haven't seen this channel yet, please hit the subscribe button. I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy the content, but most of you guys know how things roll around here. I appreciate all you guys who are already part of the channel. I've been working at Jesse's shop the last couple days, trying to put in a streaming / podcasting area in the shop, and it was very interesting because some of the guys that work there, they're 20 years old, and it was me and Danny are talking, on one-on-one, and then there's these 20-year-old kids that have no idea what we're talking about with some of this stuff,
Right.
It's just it's very interesting, man.
It's you have to be very good at back end and understanding transition. You're pivoting, so you can't really get used to this is how I use StreamYard. No, you got to upgrade yourself. I'm beta for eBay Live. Every 2 weeks, we have to rechange something on how something is put in or taken away. Sometimes good stuff is taken away, and you're saying, do I fight this battle or do I just adapt and figure that wraparound around it? But I think your store should always be pivoting, and I think at the end of the day, you should be looking at your square. I have 8,000 square feet. I need to use all 8,000 square feet to sell. Someone said, make sure you don't oversell as well. So we want to make sure that we're not over-promising, under-delivering, but we're also saying, hey, if we're then do a live stream room, that is about 800 square feet, which is bigger than some of these stores I go into now. We have to utilize that to our best advantage. And also understand that there's plenty of time to live stream. You got 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I literally just finished a live streaming selling show, and bam, just popped
Yeah.
onto this.
Let's talk about
So-
that. You've been a big forerunner in live selling on third party sales.
Right.
Is kind of what you call it, right? That third
yeah,
market.
third party. Yep.
Yeah, and you've been very early on that. You started Comic Book Shopping Network. You do that with a partner over there, Jen
right.
King. Yep, and then you've been selling on eBay Live.
Since the beginning,
Facebook, eBay Live since the beginning, but Facebook, live marketplace forever.
So me and one of my friends were the very first people to live stream. He's doing what he's doing. I'm doing what I'm doing. So we're going on 8 years of being the first comic book retailer live streamers. And I will tell you, it's been a fantastic road. And I think what happens is you have to do this with blinders, and you can't really look at what other people are doing per se in the moment. You want to look at them and say, okay, they're doing great now, but in a year, if they're still in this business, then I got to see what the model is. The percentage of people that are successful on live streaming is very small. The percentage is extremely, extremely small. I mean, I don't have exact numbers, but it's probably 1 in every 100 people that do this actually become successful in doing this. And there's a lot of heartaches. I haven't shipped in 10 years. I have my team that does that. And now that I'm up here, I'm spending 3-4 hours a day shipping that I could be doing what I normally do. Trying to adjust
sucks.
To live streaming, and it's so fast paced. I mean, it's just this regurgitation of fast pacedness and what's hot and what's not. And if it is hot, how far do you take it till you go to the next thing?
Yeah. Well, I think that a big part of collectible sales, comic book store sales in the short future is going to be from online sales, either, static online sales or live selling, rooms or programs or whatever, that is going to be where not just comic books, but, like it is now, breaks, Pokemon breaks, card breaks, sports card breaks, selling action figures and statues and,
it's smart business, right? We always want to do smart business. And as we get into the more conversations of talking to guys that are not renewing their leases, and going right to live stream. And so I think nowadays it's not even an option for your business. It's a must for your business. I was talking to my landlord, and he was bringing in a new tenant, and his first question was, do you live stream? And the guy said, no. And he goes, well, how you then make rent if you don't live stream? And I'm thinking, wait a minute, guys. We're now asking someone who's buying a storefront if they're live streaming, and if they're not live streaming, you might not let them in. And so
that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And so Haven, just so you know, there's 17,500 cities across the United States of America. There's estimated 2,500 store owners, 3,000 stores altogether if you take those 2,500 store owners. So when you say the millions and millions of people, you're talking about, 15,000 cities that don't have a comic book store. Glendale has 4. So the numbers are even skewered even to less cities. So a
lot of people are just selling from their house. They're selling from their back room.
Yeah, and here's the best number for you. Three Rivers, what's going on? Here's the best number for you. 77,000 people sell comics on eBay. And again, if there's only 2,500 comic book store owners, and let's say those 2,500 comic book store owners are all on eBay, that tells you how small a comic book store is as far as ratio rise, as far as selling books. So we just have to be better than everybody else. I mean, that's just what it comes down to.
Yep. All right. So we're getting an ETA from Dennis, who I'm not giving him too much shit because I'm giving him a little bit of shit, but I have to give him a pass, and you guys will understand why. So we've been talking about this, and we finally say, okay, let's just go for it Tuesday and just knock out a show. And he calls and lets us know the day before. He goes, I got a little bit of an issue. I got tickets to go see Porno for Pyros, and it's Perry Farrell's last tour, and it's Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So, I won't give him too much shit, but I'm going to give him a little bit of shit for this. Because
well, I mean, he can turn on his phone while he drives. He's in Michigan. I don't think Michigan has too many laws on how they drive in that state. So, so you can always do that. Hey, there's a famous video I did. I bought a collection in Santa Monica, and as I was driving back, Shannon was driving, and I was live streaming back of the car, going through the collection and selling. There's an old rule done by Brian, and it's very simple. ABS, always be selling. Always be selling. And always be selling it's a generic term, which means right now, even though we're not really selling, we're branding, right? So that's kind of selling, and you're talking about the industry. And so very, very cool stuff. Our governor shut down.
What's that?
Shut down like Nagin. I don't know.
So here's something interesting. What was I just gonna say? Damn it! It just went in and out, in and out. All right, let's get into some of this stuff. I want to show you something. You know what? I'll wait for Dennis for that. I think it'll be worthy of waiting for Dennis for that. But all right. So one of the things that I think is important to talk about is what a comic book store is, right? And that was something that we kind of wanted to hit off, and I think we'll be able to give Dennis enough opportunity to jump in
Sure.
at the end of this conversation. But, what is a comic book store, Jesse?
So a comic book store is someone that provides a great service to basically a plethora of customers, whether it be in front of you or across the globe, right? And it gives them an avenue to buy comics. So a comic book store shouldn't be labeled as someone who buys new issues, and that defines them as a comic book store. If you go into a Zia Records or Half Price Books, listen, these guys and gals are selling a ton of books. So why should we say, oh, well, no, they're not a comic book store? No, if you create a atmosphere where people can come and complete their collections or buy something new or get a trade paperback, why wouldn't you consider that? Now, you can define it a little bit more by, do you buy comics, right? Do you buy comics and resell comics? So we were the first store this century to drop new issues and continue to go. And a lot of people traditionally, when you drop new issues, you're a store that's closing, right? You're not staying open. Well, we figured out that you could just sell comic books and not have to carry new issues. Now, also, I didn't like my bill being every week 10,000 to 15,000 a week and having 550 box holders. That probably, we probably could have been smarter there. But I think a comic book store is generally a area that someone can go to
and buy
comics. And buy comics. And there's it's almost like this safety zone, right? My job is to create great comic book therapy for every customer that comes in. So in other words, when they walk in that door, they're not thinking about work. They're not worried about, oh my gosh, I don't have diapers, or hey, my phone's not working. When they come in, they're in that environment. When I'm talking to people doing my live shows, I've done over close to 1,600 live shows just on my main show, including all the other shows I do. I had to create great comic book therapy to people across the world that are watching that might not even buy a book from me. But my job is to afterwards for them to come to my webpage. Or the final thing is, there's two final things. The second thing is a place where people can sell their product. And the second thing is creating a destination spot, whether it be your webpage, your store, your stagnant sales on eBay, or just a YouTube channel like tonight.
So there's been this big, huge change in the comic book retailer world, where there's become these areas that aren't, or these sellers who aren't brick and mortar shop owners that are selling comics. Where do they sit in that?
Well, I think there's two definitions of selling comics. You're in the industry, and in the industry means you have some form of communication and you're purchasing from the industry. So whether it be Boom, Dynamite, Diamond, Lunar, Penguin, and you're directly involved, you can do things that change the industry for the better. Now, some people change it for the worse, but most people are trying to make the industry better so that you have this modernized system for someone who wants to open up a comic book store, wants to go through all the fun stuff and also the headaches. Or if you just sell comics, which is someone on YouTube or whatnot or whatever, there's nothing wrong with that, except for when we come within ideas. There is a separation of ideas of, well, you can do this and you can do that, and no one from Boom is going to say anything from you. No one from Image is going to say anything to you. But if you're in the industry, you have this kind of this formality you have to stay with. They can put your feet on fire if they have to. And so it really depends on how you want to do this. I come from a big corporate background, so I like being part of the industry. Now, I would say I'm on my own island. I'm not in any forums. I'm not in any groups, but I have probably one of the best sets of allies possible. So if I wanted to close my store, I know I'm fine in the future. But I think to be honest with you, I think when you don't own a comic book store, you miss out on a lot of cool things about being a store owner. And it gives you a better, it just gives you a better outlook of being in the trenches, right?
Yeah.
If you're in the trenches and you're talking to people and you're telling people how to sell one more book, because you are in the trenches, I think there is a separation of what I'm doing now in this room. I can't coach and teach someone from the trenches in Florida right now. In Arizona, I could take you around the store and have a blast. And coach you on every aspect of selling. And so there is this, I'm not going to say I don't think we go to conventions and say, he sells on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there a gatekeeping there, do you think? Is there a gatekeeping?
Gatekeepers, I think we're in the last generation of gatekeepers. So when I came in, you had this solid group, about 8 or 10 gatekeepers. I'm not going to mention their names. I think if you're in this industry, you know who those gatekeepers are. As the new generation came in, which is me, Dennis, and I can name off all these names, I don't think we've put on our shoulder to be the new gatekeepers. I think because of social media, because of social reach, there's no need to have gatekeepers, right? You should have experience, right? I've done this 42 years. I'm an overstreet advisor. I've broken 3 Guinness Book of World Records. I've run big companies. I've done all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't think someone new has to do that.
Yeah.
I think they can just come in, sell, and I did this.
And whether they do it from their home or they do it from a store, a brick and mortar shop, when they meet that certain level where you've got a tax code and you're dealing with Diamond and you're dealing with distributors, or you're dealing with Marvel on a regular basis, that type of thing.
You're not and here's the thing: you're not dealing with theft. You're the reality of a store, right?
Yeah.
We just switched from Cox to AT&T. The gap of 3 days as a store owner not having your phone work properly. So I think at the end of economics, thank you, I appreciate that. I think at the end of the day, I think our gatekeepers are still here. We haven't lost any of them. Do they irk me on a lot of their decisions on modernized stuff? Yeah. But at the end of the day, I know you got the Jeppies there, and I've been friends with the Jeppies forever. And in fact, I got a call with Josh tomorrow. So, but I think when you look at these gatekeepers, what you're trying to say is, what did they get how did they start this business, and where we're at today? What they did back here, did that get us here? Yeah. So Jeppies distribution by far. I don't care what anybody says about the Jeppies. You can say all you want in the world. We would not have the correct distribution that we have had over the years. And I also think the smartness of knowing how to protect your brand. The Jeppies were buying out everybody, right? Back in the day, all the distributors. So how do you protect your brand? And that's something I've learned over this last 15 years of having this store, and of course doing this 42 years as selling comics, that you get a lot of things that push you into directions, and your job is to know how to use those brakes and pull over and say, no, I'm happy here.
Well, at the same time, you're open to the new ideas, right? You're a progressive store owner. You see right. That you want better changes and better things for comics, right?
Right. Well, here's a prime example. Are you the keymaster? So keymasters are kind of funny, right? Because keymasters' jobs aren't to be, there's an old saying, your best salesperson in the store is the owner. Well, your owner, the keymaster, the head, whatever you want to call it, their job is to coach people to be better, right? So I didn't leave Arizona, my store, in bad shape. I'm kind of left in better shape, right? Because I coach these guys to be better. So, very interesting the way you look at it. But I think when Dennis gets on, I'm sure he has the opinion of the Jeppies, and we can go from there. But I have been very fortunate that the Jeppies have always been there for me in every shape and form of this. And listen, I've been very fortunate throughout my campaign. And of course, we're just getting started. But I think everybody understood that give me some leeway. Let me show you some new progressive stuff. And I think it's fun. I've done over 400 plus exclusives. And the great thing about me is you can't buy them from me. They're all sold out. So you learn this stuff. But you learn this from the key masters, the heads, about how to sell exclusives. So,
all right. I think it's very interesting to see the change in comic book world, and how sellers and retailers and and it's just branching out into this crazy weird thing, right?
Yeah.
Where some of the biggest sellers in comics might not have a brick and mortar store that's open to the public, right?
Right.
And they're doing everything through online sales, which is absolutely bonkers to me. And but at the same time, there's a lot of guys. We talk about stores closing all the time.
Right.
And I feel like, one of the things that I hear you say all the time is, if you would just to start it today, you wouldn't do a brick and mortar store.
Oh no! If once my lease is up on this store, if my partners want to continue it, obviously I would take a smaller part in that industry. There's so much money to be made, and so many customers to be taken care of beyond your store. It's ridiculous. And listen, if you can go out, listen, I'm working at a store that's just a warehouse. He's got 100 square foot sales front, and he makes so much money in the back. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And so I think you need a storefront to buy books. It's the number one reason for it. But at some point, when you learn all the nooks and crannies and all the warehouses you can buy from, I don't know if you really need a store, right? So
it is nice. It is nice that you can have collections come in, but there's a lot of people that are just searching on eBay, or they get a big name, and if you're a big name online, people will go to you to sell you collections, and
right.
You've driven all over the country to go pick up collections, and I think that there's a huge change, especially since COVID. Since the pandemic, that has caused that to happen even more, man. It's unreal. I look at people like post-war comics. How they kind of do that. They did this big, huge selling campaign. They got that barn that they sell out of. They open up that barn for sales every once in a while. That type of thing. Like, there's very few, not very few. There's a lot of new retailers. Do you think that there's a lot of former store owners that are still selling but just online, or do you think that those stores just ended?
I can tell you, there's not a store owner in the last 10 years that has sold their store or just walked out that isn't selling comics online. I can guarantee you 98.5% of them are selling comics online, because it just makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I think when you look at people like post-war, if you look at post-war, I always tell people, look at what if you investigate, if you're smart and you investigate on what these guys actually do besides sell comics, you'll see why they can go out and buy 300 long boxes without an issue. Most comic book store owners don't have another job that brings in that type of money, with the insurance and all the other things that you get when you got a primary job. They get off, have dinner with their wife and kids, and then start live streaming. That's an easy life. So
how was the concert, my friend?
Dude, when you hear that it's the farewell tour, you kind of get in the back of your head like, oh shit, is there a reason? Is he losing that voice that just made everything Jane's Addiction and Porno for Pyro, just sound perfect? Dude, he was right on with everything, and he is, for some reason, it feels like he mellowed with age, and everything was like a trance song now. Or maybe I'm mellow, and I'm just realizing how much trance was in there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was incredible. And I'll tell you what, also, if you get a chance, look up Tiger Cub, the opening band from England. They were surprisingly off the chain really good.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the show.
Before you get into it, I just want to answer the tax thing. So for taxes, wherever you sell, unless you're only dealing with cash and not putting in your bank account, they're then find you. So there's no really skirting. You might skirt it for 6 months to a year, but trust me, you're eventually going to have to be paying for your IG sales or your YouTube sales, wherever you sell. Everything is trackable. So just keep that in mind. It's just, I would just say be careful once you start getting over that $25,000 a year. Then I don't care where you sell. It's there, then get you.
Yeah, you can't play around with that shit.
Yeah.
All right. You there? He's got to change his mic settings. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Oh, that don't work.
Check 1 2. Can you hear okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me good? Am I like off the chart?
No, you're good.
All right, good. We'll do it this way tonight, and I'll have a better setup next week.
Sounds good. All right, let's get into some of the news this week. I wanted to show you guys this. So we kind of just kind of flowed there for a little bit, Dennis. But I wanted to show you guys.
Absolutely. I apologize, guys. I won't be late for any of the others.
Oh, don't worry about it, brother. You're good. So one of the things that I wanted to show you guys that I thought was interesting, and we were kind of talking about retailers and how there's a lot of new retailers these days, and a lot of them sell heavily online and this and that. And one of the guys that has been talked about many places on this channel, some good, some bad, a lot bad, is Bryan Comics, and he just put out this video the other day, and I'm gonna speed it up a little bit, but I want to run it through with you guys and see what you guys think. This is kind of interesting, and this is life right here. This is just what that is. Let's get into it.
We're moving to Montana. I know what you're probably thinking. Don't you know it's cold in Montana? Don't you know it snows there? Don't worry, young Marcus and young Riley are coming with me, and we're ready for the cold. We love the snow. Thank you for your concern. And also, I know, we just moved in this new place. You just redid the basement. You got this awesome man cave, and now you're just going to pack it all up and move. And long story short, divorce sometimes can be messy, and this is just the best way where everyone's as happy as they can possibly.
That's life, you guys. Yeah, you feel bad for the guy, man. That's a shitty situation to be in, and that's the way it is. But he's making the best of it, and I hope nobody gives him any shit for that, because
Okay, first question was Crane anywhere near his wife before this happened? I mean, I know he makes variant comics, but was Clayton Crane anywhere near his wife before this happened?
It could be, dude. I don't know.
Probably be. Enough said. So today in this video, we're doing a liquidation sale. All right, we're going through all of this stuff. We're bulking out slabs. We're bulking out raw books. We're bulking out back issues. There's also going to be some stuff for some local pickup if you're anywhere near Paradise, California. There'll be some stuff you might be interested there. Tons of reseller stuff. This is stuff that'll be great for resellers, hoarders. No judgment on either one of those. I've been both of those things in my life. So hoarders, resellers, collectors alike. Some for everyone here. But first, I want to start with this: bulking out.
So, getting rid of shit quickly. You guys have been there, huh?
Right.
This is an interesting thing that I see that I talk about, being such a problem in this new world of retailer exclusive variants. Is you got these books where these guys have boxes of these things, and at some point they're just going to go, I'm either going to throw them away or just sell them, right? And here you guys go. For whatever reason, this guy's got to get rid of all of these variants that he bought. That he was going to put in mystery boxes for the next 5 years. He's been getting collections, I imagine, to fill those mystery boxes. So he's getting rid of all that stuff too. But it's very interesting to see this being played out live on YouTube. You know what I mean? It's very interesting. What's it like having to burn through those books like that?
Well, I think the first thing, whenever you do a promo, your surroundings, first of all, you might not want to do it in front of your garage door. That's the first thing. That's the only thing I saw was his garage door. I'm like, well, wait a minute. this makes no sense. So I'm supposed to take you serious, yet you're staying in the front of your garage doors. I don't care about the volume he's done. Volume does not dictate someone who's successful in this business. I went through a divorce. I was able to get my store. I lost everything else. It's very simple. You just have to have a very good divorce lawyer. But I think at the end, I always tell people our job is not to have a lot of stuff every day. Our job is to sell everything. And so if you're having a barn burner of product, it's probably because you didn't sell everything.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
all right, let's continue.
Out Ultimate Spider-Man #1, Jung Hyun Yoon variant, the Bryce Comics edition, trade dress, limited to 3,000. Comes with this COA. You can use the COA or not. It's up to you. My intention with this variant when I got it was to offer it for $1, like add on to any purchase or free with any purchase, something like that. The timing just got all messed up because that's moving to Montana. We got rid of about half of the books.
Look at that. Look at that.
yeah, that's crazy. That's embarrassing.
Jeez.
What's most embarrassing about this? That's been the hottest book of the industry for 6 freaking weeks.
Yeah.
And if he had a store, he could have done some volume with that.
Doesn't he have a store? I thought, did he not have a store? Isn't that how he was getting a lot of these collections? Am I wrong about that? Chat, let me know. I mean, I don't know a lot about Bryce Comics, but I swear that he at some point recently got a store or started a store, but I could be wrong. It's crazy, man. This is nuts. All right, here we go.
We have about 1,500 left. It's limited to 3,000. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer these as cost to other resellers or hoarders or whoever wants to buy an entire box at cost. And so you can use the COA if you want. It'll come with the COA, or you can leave the COA out. It's up to you. And so cost on these is $4 a piece, and there is 130 per box, which comes to 500.
How many of these boxes do you think that he sold?
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's kind of funny because a box holds 250, right, Dennis?
Yeah, but I think these are extra
double
fat.
sized. Okay,
I think
are they
these
double
are
sized?
extra fats, and that's why it's 130.
Yep.
$120 per box.
Here's my thing. Literally 2 sentences before he gets to that, he says, "I intended to sell these for $1 add-ons."
Yeah.
But you retailers, you get to pay the low price of only $4.
Wow, that's a great point. Let's go back and watch that again.
And I'm like mind boggled that it's like, why would you say one thing and then we know he did a whatnot where he just dumped all these for $1 a piece anyway, and it's like, so you're already losing money and now you want retailers to pay you quadruple what you're willing to dump these for already.
Yeah.
My intention with this variant when I got it was to offer it for $1, like add on.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing is retailers, it's a challenge when you're selling someone else's exclusive. That's I wouldn't say that's go ahead.
No, I know where you're going with this because we've had this conversation dozens of times.
Yeah, sure.
If you could just, when you roll this forward again, this says Bryce Comics. It might as well say Poison Comics.
Yeah.
Because that's his brand and he has poisoned his brand. Why would I ever touch your poison book at my retail store where I have spent, coming up next month, or actually next week, I've spent 19 years building the Wonder World Comics brand.
Yeah.
Everything I do has Wonder World Comics. Everything Jesse does is Jesse James Comics. Everything Bry did was Bry's Comics, except for he sucked at it. There's just no retailer in their right mind should touch this other than to just have a copy of Ultimate Spider-Man to give their customers. But at $4 a piece, it's a ridiculous concept.
Yeah.
So cost on these is $4 a piece, and there is 130 per box, which comes to $520 per box. And they come shipped, no bags, no board, but it will have COA. And there's no guarantee on grade, but these are double boxed, and so they should handle pretty well. All right, so for the Ultimate Spider-Man ones, I'm keeping 3 long boxes about to offer at Whatnot shows for $1. So link down in the description for $15 for your first purchase on Whatnot, where you come by and pick up one of those for $1 and a bunch of other books in the buy it now. Always bulk slab boxes. So these slab boxes, you get 25 CGC 9.8. So this is 9.8 box 1. You got a chicken Chicken Devil 1 in 15, Chicken Devil New York Comic Con. There will be multiples. Miles Morales 1 in 10, and so the rest of these from here on out are incentives. I'm not going to go through each one. At $450, it is less than the cost of grading when you factor in shipping to and from CGC. So $450 for 25 CGC 9.8s. So that's box 1. This is the Hibichi box 1. So this is 25 copies of Venom 25, the 1 in 25.
He is just. This is. Rough.
It's desperation, and that everyone can smell it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. Let's see what he says. What's going to happen? I want to see where he talks about what his plan is after he, sells off all of these. Is he gonna end it? Is he done doing all this? Because it looks like this is just him going through all of these. So let's see if he even talks about it.
Incentive cover, a big chunk, 1 in 25. 5 is $200 press or something, but they're not all rejects. 1 in 50 for this as well. 25 Grassetti foil.
He's just going through all
and a great
stuff.
option for you on this. Marvel Voices is random box number 7. Random box number 2 for $100. This is the poster box for $50. You get this entire box here. Anytime I got like a random thing in the collection, this looks like a.
Pause. Jesse, as much as we would love this to me, that's the best deal in the entire.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
because in the hands of a real seller like me or Jesse, those posters are a minimum of $10 a piece, a maximum of $50 a piece. Yet this guy couldn't be bothered to open up those posters, find the customer for them, and sell them. This guy was looking for the pie in the sky, and hey, I'll tell you why. Because I used to too. It wasn't until I became the Bruce Lee, be like water that I am now today, that I had to like boil down on what is important. And this guy was missing the forest through the trees.
Yeah, and I think the important thing here, I would want to know how long has he been doing this. I'm not familiar with Bry's or Breeze.
Well, but Jesse, we do. We had to talk about Bry 3 or 4 years ago. You and I personally. This is if I'm not mistaken, in chat, tell me if I am. This is the guy that would burn like 90% of his production run to make it limited to 100.
Yes. Okay,
Jesse and I were so adamantly against this guy's entire ethos of destroying our artwork, our industry's product, an artist's work. It's not just a writer's work, a penciler's work. This guy felt it was so insignificant that he would burn 90% of his run to make a collectible.
So shout out.
Jesse and I had, whenever he started that, was it 3 or 4 years ago?
No, that was about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. Yeah. It was the whole Del Auto thing.
I think it was older than that. But yeah, either way, we were so adamantly just reviled by this guy.
Yeah. I think if 2018 is technically where he started, 6 years in this business, that's still rookie years, technically.
Yeah.
You're still learning your ropes. I don't know if he had a store at the time, but
shout out to Billy. Billy from Economics and Comics just said that it's literally no store. It's just a little room that he probably paid in between businesses that he paid to probably, as his warehouse,
Yeah, exactly. So you're taking comic book life and you're probably saying comic book life is 3 years of non-retail life, right? 1 to 3, 1 to 4. So, this is a lot of things I'm looking at, that especially the posters, especially the ones with the barcodes.
I missed the opportunity to answer this earlier, so let me jump in right now because this is the perfect spot for it. What is a comic book store?
Yep.
It's not this.
Yeah.
It's not your garage. It's not your basement. A comic book store is a place where you have become a geek hub.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what you sell. If 2 people can come in and share what they love about anything that came from the fruit of comic books. I used to call a comic book store the umbrella of geekdom. You can sell Pokemon and Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh! You can sell toys. You can sell statues. You can sell statues of video games. You can sell video games of video games. You can sell whatever under that umbrella. But the point of a comic book store is to be that that hub of geek activity, and comic books are the one pure American-made art form that we can kind of put a pin in and say, Americans made that.
Yeah.
That is our art form, and it ballooned into what we now have, which is 20% of the industry for movies, 10% of the TV market, whatever that is. It's become what it is now because of places that fertilized that art form for decades, over 80 years.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we might be looking at someone that, as a retailer, it's very hard to look at that and say, okay, do you really need to blow this stuff out? But in our forum, we have so many customers that are walking in that we're able to sell this product to and not have to liquidate it like he is liquidating it. So
Yeah, let's see how this ends.
Face mask, some different posters that come from the distributors, random stuff from collections, and like free stuff from the distributor, like these King and Black tattoos. It all went in this box. So there's probably over 100 posters in here.
You then talk about the lithos?
No. I'm going to talk about and freebies from the publishers. You know what those freebies are for? To make more customers.
Yep.
He should have been throwing those tattoos, those lithos into every order instead of adding $1 to get whatever. That's how you build a market. Jesse's freebie table used to be an 8-foot long table.
Yep.
Okay. My freebie table is only 4 or 5 or maybe 6, but I had smaller square foot when I had the freebie table.
Right.
But I still have freebie stuff all through the store.
Sure. We have freebie stuff every day.
That's why the publishers spend.
Yeah.
That's why he paid shipping for most of those freebies.
Yeah, I think the problem is we have, and I'm going to jump off course just a tad here. We've taken Free Comic Book Day as the only day to give away free stuff. And I'm like, dude, I give away free stuff every day. Yeah. If I find a stack of stuff I know I can't sell, I'm throwing it in there.
Well, I used to take the whole year, not just that, December preview, January FOC. Right. If Walking Dead had whatever issue that was like a 25-cent issue, I'm like, that's cheaper than the 35 cents I'm going to have to pay for an Image Free Comic Book Day in a couple months. And I'd buy 1,000 of it. I'd buy 2,000 of it. Anything that was under a Free Comic Book Day that I wanted to have for free comic, I just buy 1,000 of it and just go, is that worth the $25 or whatever to give those away free in my store on Free Comic Book Day and all from there to Free Comic Book Day?
Sure.
Yeah. I don't need the quarter. I need the more customers, and when you drop something free in their hands, that's a call to action, get back.
Yeah, so exactly.
Check this out. This is what he says. This is interesting.
Presses. If anybody wants a fleet of presses and you're local, this would have to be a local thing. Here's 7 presses that I can give you very
T-shirt presses at that. Ooh, ruin your comic books right there.
Very inexpensive. I probably don't want to do it one by one unless you're local. You could swing by real quick and pick up higher, but they wouldn't fit in here. But I have all the pieces for that. Those are brand new. So if you're local and you need some shelving. So that's it for this liquidation video. Thank you guys for helping me clear space. I hope you guys can make some money off of this. Don't forget to catch us over on Whatnot tomorrow if you're watching this the day it comes out. And if it's after the day it comes out, we always have awesome Whatnot shows. Slab shows are usually on Friday. Tons of giveaways. Link down in the description for $15 towards your first purchase. We've got a bunch of new collections and stuff coming in. So if you're thinking about selling your collection, I'm still buying. We've got the timing worked out to where it shouldn't be any interruption to business as usual. Maybe like a day or two. We'll see you next time on a live stream in Montana after that show. Thanks again for sticking with us all the way to the end. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
If he's continuing on to Montana, why is he selling all that stuff?
Right. So a couple of things. If he's going through a divorce, what he's trying to do is he's trying to get everything gone.
Okay.
Because the first thing the divorce lawyers then come into, and especially both divorce lawyers, actually, they're then look at that collection. They're then kind of look at that collection at liquidation prices. They're then look at that. How much would this sell if it wasn't liquidated? So this book you're selling for $1.
The wife owns half of that garage.
Exactly.
And if she says, I think it's worth $100,000 because this idiot has been buying owes Diamond $100,000, then he's got to liquidate that to prove it's not the 100, or he's going to lose $50,000 worth of equity in the house when it sells.
Yeah, exactly. I think in this case, there's an old saying that comic book store owners don't die; we get rebooted in the future. And I think what happens is, if he does come back, he'll be a smarter retailer. Whether he's doing it live streaming, and he's mentioned whatnot 9 times in that video, so he has a connection there. But I think in the end of the day. When you get out of sales, listen, I've bought 16 stores since I've been in business, and I've bought some big stores in my life. Those store owners wake up one day and they're done. They don't want anything. They're not taking anything. They want everything gone so they can move on with their life. And this might be one of those moments for them. So,
yeah, I don't want to get into his personal headspace, but I do. He definitely thinks that I'm just not doing this right. Maybe the wife's holding me back. When I move to Montana, I'll be able to streamline this and not do so many variants and not press so many books and not slab so many things. He's coming up with something that's his cocoon that he's going to try to come out of in Montana. Yep. But I will tell you this. Jesse, I was listening to the whole show. Yeah. Jesse, how many of those cities in Montana are probably the ones that don't have comic book stores?
Yeah, I was trying to think maybe one store in the state of Montana, and
So I'm sitting there going, okay, so you're going to try to do your thing up there, but the problem is there's no comic stores to have sold comics to people to sell them back to you so you can flip them. So I kind of think that this might just be a dead man walking at a certain point.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I always take everything and I say on any story that comes out, Amway. I always say, how does it affect my business? How does it affect me personally? How does it affect my allies? And if it doesn't affect my allies and it doesn't affect me personally, it doesn't affect my brand, it doesn't affect my team, then technically I really don't care. But I think,
hold on though, Jesse, though, this goes back to our discussion. It does affect us.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
Every time this idiot sold one of his limited 100 9.8s, of a 3,000 production Marvel book, it takes money out of the real, and I'll gatekeep a little bit.
Sure.
There's a lot of middlemen in this business right now, and he's one of them.
And so my point was, I don't care, but on the flip end, I also have to care as far as the industry goes, so that this is not a blueprint on how to do your business. This is something you look at and you say, wow, I shouldn't do my business this way, right? And this is how we get better people into the industry, is by giving them blueprints of saying, listen, a lot of people come into this business and they think exclusives are the answer. They're not. That's supposed to be an add-on to your business, not the business.
Well, Jesse and Bryan both know. I used to be, actually, I had a retailer call me the variant king one time behind my back, and one of my employees heard him talking about me and said, oh, that's the variant king. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, is that what I'm? Shit, I thought I was way cooler than that. And then I literally was like, June of 23 was the last time I did a variant.
Yep.
It's been a while.
No, June of 22. I haven't done a variant in a year and a half.
Yeah. It's
the
rough
Obi-Wan
right now.
was my
It's
last
tough.
variant.
It's tough. All right. Let's get into Comics Pro 2024. Happened this last week in Pittsburgh, and let's run through some of the changes so one of the things that I want to talk about is a lot of people don't understand what Comics Pro is. And
hold on a second. Can I honestly just, the irony that somebody just posted about Amway and Jesse and I both chuckled right after he posted it, and now you go to Comics Pro, which I honestly feel is the closest thing our industry has to Amway and multi-level marketing.
Let's talk about what is Comics Pro.
Well, if you
go ahead, Jesse,
let me give
way more political about it.
Yeah, let me do the PC part about it. So, Comics Pro is a group that was created to help comic book stores across the nation to come together, to be united, to bring together great ideas and and try to achieve them as a major group. They're not a union or anything like that. And so what we have seen over the years is a lot of people have learned that you don't really need to go to this gathering when you're getting information every single day now. So the truth of the matter is a group of professionals in the comic book industry that have comic book stores that go to this event and get wined and dined by publishers to buy more product. And that's pretty much what Comic Pro does. They do work 52 weeks a year. I cannot tell you what they do for 52 weeks a year. I'm not part of it. It's not something that I would join, but it is something that some people, it is a very fruitful event for them.
Okay, so I'm gonna break this down on a couple levels real quick. I'll be real quick about it. Do you guys remember in high school when all the popular kids, they were in the student council and they decided when your prom was going to be and what the theme was going to be, and then they got their free tickets and they charged you $50 to come to prom? And then they go to college, and I would bet dollars to donuts that they all joined a fraternity or sorority because they like to be in these little cliques. They like to be in these kind of administrative positions because they clearly are the smartest people, just the world doesn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you open a comic book store, like Jesse said earlier, there's very few gatekeepers to just put a sign on the wall that says comics and open a diamond account, or buy a collection and sell your collection or whatever. You can do that. But if you want to reach that next level where you're like Jesse and I, talking to publishers, making variants, buying out extra stock, et cetera, then you're going to want to get an edge out. You're going to want to, make those relationships. This is the shortcut. I can't even point right. This is the shortcut to getting those relationships. A lot of those people feel.
But here's the problem.
And then guess what? Because of that, they become the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
I joined Comics Pro one time. I went to one of these annual meetings, and they had Comixology as a guest talking about all of the fabulous things that you could get for free from Comixology. And I'm like, you do know these people sell digital comics. These people are kind of the enemy of a brick and mortar retail store. All they want to do is get our customers' data. And I always said this, and to make an even sidebar, my thoughts about Jeppy are the same as James or Jesse. We would never be where we are today as an industry if the Jeppy family did not step in, curtail all of the cats, herd them in one direction, and then now it's all branching off. So with that being said, the Jeppys have a very vital part of this to open the door and let anybody sell comic books. These guys want to steer the industry in the direction that they feel it should be going, selling young adult novels, Dogman, and I don't care how many. I don't want to think of how many times I heard, "Well, you should be selling Dogman. You should be ordering books, and I'm like, I want to sell comic books. Well, you're just an idiot. You don't, that's kind of the mentality. They are the gatekeepers of this business.
How many stores are there out there, do you guys think, in the nation?
First of all, Gary, what's going on? Gary and me work together in Seattle with Nordstrom, and so we're both comic book collectors. So I think we come to common grounds between 2,000 and 2,500. Dennis is at 2,000. I was technically at 3,000.
Jesse, I've amended that a long time ago.
Where are you at?
We're under 1,500.
No way.
I'll tell you why, Jesse. Hold on.
1,500 retailers.
Do you remember the 2009? No, not 9. When was the one? Oh, God, it was 2018. The Retailer Summit in Vegas.
Yes.
You went to that one.
No, I did not.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No, that's the one. That's when I stopped going to Retailer Summits.
Running around the room, gobbling up all the variants and kissing asses. And I saw the Image guy there. And the Image guy was just sitting because they didn't have a variant. And McFarlane wasn't coming until the next day. So he's just sitting there. And I said, you know what? I want to find some information out. So I sat with him. And I was like, hey, how many stores do we have? After, we did some chit chat.
Sure.
And he goes, oh, well, we don't know that number. And this is Image, the third publisher.
Right.
The third largest publisher, 15% of the industry, I think, at that moment in time. And he's like, well, here's what I can tell you. He's like, and he presents it as a quiz.
Right.
He goes, Dennis, how many independent stores do you think order regular copies of The Walking Dead? And at that time, I think we were at like Walking Dead 120, somewhere around there. And I'm like, I don't know, all 2,000 of them? He goes, about 1,500 stores.
Yep.
Order a regular copy, at least one copy, of the regular release of The Walking Dead, which at the time was the number one indie book. It was selling close to 75,000 to 100,000 copies. The TV show was the number one show on TV. 20 million people watched it every week. And I was like, really? That seems low. He goes, oh, you want to hear what's really lower? How many do you think bought the current volume of the trade paperback? I'm like, you mean the trade paperback that I buy about 10 copies of every time it releases a new issue? He goes, yeah. He goes, I'm like, I don't know, like 1,200? He goes, less than 500 stores order the current volume of and that was literally Image's number one trade paperback.
Sure.
So when you kind of extrapolate that kind of data, and yeah, I'm being a little bit of a gatekeeper here. I don't think you're a real store if you don't sell Walking Dead trade paperbacks, at least one of them in your store. I don't think you're a real store. And what I'm saying is a real store, like a actual new comic store.
Right.
Because clearly I'm a comic book store with a totally different model now.
Right.
And I don't think you're a real store unless you're carrying the number one indie book, for the number one TV show. So
do you carry Johnny Homicidal trade?
Yeah, I buy it every.
You have the director's cut.
No, I usually just carry.
Then you're not a comic book store if you don't have the director's cut. I mean, I could pick any book out of the whole thing and say, "Well, you're not a comic book store.
Jesse,
maybe you're anti-zombies,
bit of a different phenomenon.
Right? Maybe you're on the Bible Belt. Maybe your store can't carry that." Right?
Well, here's my point for asking this, right? Okay, so you guys are thinking of somewhere in between, let's say 1,500 and 2,000, okay? Let's just say that.
Yeah.
How many of those stores are Comic Pro store people?
I can't see it.
That's a different question altogether, but go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, I was going to say you're probably looking at max 20%, and that's, that might be a high number there.
I heard they have 500 member stores at one point in the last 2 years. But how many of those member stores
participate? Yeah.
Well, no, but not just that. But how many of those member stores are only members so they can get the
free variants,
store day variants, and so they can go to the Comics Pro meeting and get the free variants? Bryan could technically be a Comics Pro member.
Anybody could, right? I mean, how do you become a Comics Pro member? You just ask?
I think they've changed the rules over the last couple years. So I'm not quite sure what the requirements are. I know we have pivoted away from people not even having to send pictures of their storefronts. Not having to send leases. You don't have to send a lease anymore.
Even if there's 2,000 comic book stores, which it's close enough to the mark. You know what I'm saying? Hand grenades and horseshoes. If there's 400 stores, that's what's that number? 20%?
Yeah, 20%.
Okay, but if half of them aren't even kind of stores, they're just club accounts and people who want variants, that's 10%. Yeah. Which will lead Jesse to the topic that we talked about, that we want to talk about, which is that's 10% of this upper echelon retailers trying to steer an entire industry of 90% of the stores that are nothing like them.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it that way. I think, listen, some people like to be part of groups and they like to be at a table and they like to be with their friends and their fellow colleagues in the trenches. And if Comics Pro is where they choose to do it, I think that's cool. That's awesome. I don't have anything about anybody being with Comic Pro, but I think at the end of the day, I think it's the decisions that you make, that you learn from it, and you walk out. My problem with Comics Pro is these people spent hard money and work their asses off to leave their stores to go, and everything they were told, everything they were told, I found out 10 seconds later.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of these, right?
Okay.
So this is a shout out to Bleeding Fool for putting up this little thing. Shout out, I love Bleeding Fool. Affidavit returns. Lunar Distribution, along with DC Image, Oni, Magma, and Vault, have agreed to affidavit returns. Instead of physically returning unsold comics, shops will provide signed statements, saving time and cost. So now you don't have to send those books back?
So this when I first came in the industry, this is how you did it anyways. So I think this is just a reversion back to it. But you got to keep in mind, I mean, back to the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, they didn't send back their books either.
Well, and Jesse, you know as well as I do, when you have to employ a person to tear the covers off of 100, 1,000, comic books, that takes time and effort.
Yeah.
And it takes just as much time and effort for, and I'll just go here, Magma and Vault to hire somebody, and Oni, to hire somebody to count that envelope that the retailer sends in. At a certain point, it's like, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to sit there and count? And we're going to count every one of these? No, let's just do an affidavit return, and then we'll focus in on a couple people we think are being ridiculous, and we'll make a lesson out of them, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And I think this is literally just a cost-saving measure. This affidavit return is just a cost-saving measure. And DC, I mean, you and I know, Jesse, DC is so gutted when it comes to actual employees right now. I mean, everybody we ever knew at DC no longer works there.
Yeah,
so
I would definitely stress to stores, the best way to not worry about returns is to sell your books and to order right. That's right. Probably would resolve that right off the bat.
Exactly. I was rarely ever fooled into over ordering so that I could spend time tearing covers off, which I thought was destruction. Once again, destruction of our art form, and just to get some kind of small percent back, and it's usually less than what you paid for it anyway.
Yeah.
So that's what this means then, basically, is that the publishers that used to allow you to return copies is now just saying you can keep them and just sell them.
Yep.
Do whatever you want with them.
Yep.
Wow. That's kind of
and the thing is the key word there, if you notice, saving time and costs for them as well as the retailer. So they're more concerned with the saving time and costs of shipping back all of these things, and then them having to count them and to then send a credit, pay an employee to, whereas they can just go affidavit return and you you log it into the Diamond system or the Lunar system, and it's done.
What's going to stop everybody from ordering a couple extra?
Well, I think that becomes an integrity issue. And eventually, all that stuff will catch up to you. It's the old saying, Brian, you're not a retailer, so I'll give you the pass on this. But it's always the person that says that in the group that is the person that actually does it, right? And so I think there's got to be an integrity thing there. You're signing an affidavit, so I mean, at the end of the day, how does that hold? But I think there is an integrity thing, and if you're an integrity person that holds a lot of face importance and brand importance, you just will do it right.
So any handicapper in sports knows numbers, and all of the smartest people that I've seen on your show, Brian, and other shows, they know the production numbers. I saw 99 Newsstand in the chat. He knows the production number of every freaking book he's collected. Guess what? Since COVID, we haven't had a single one of those numbers. And I'll put money on it right now. Those numbers are nowhere near where they were when Diamond had all the collating information. And that's the other thing. These affidavit returns are easier to do because the production numbers are so low.
Yep.
That it's like, look, do we really want to make some retailer send back 2 covers to get a $2 credit or a $4 credit? No, that's not worth anyone's time or money, and we're barely cranking out the numbers we used to anyway.
Gotcha. All right, next, Comet Standard adoption. There's a push for the adoption of the Comet Standard, aiming to standardize metadata and descriptors for comics inventory. This streamlines the process for publishers and distributors and reduces workloads for comic shop. Let's take a look at what this Comic Standard comic code is. It's a pledge to implement the standards within the Comet. Download the Comic Code pledge. Let's see what this is.
Okay, I'm just going to predict this because I have never heard of this. This is a way to try to get retailers to buy a few more comics, to have 1 or 2 on the shelf to help raise these production numbers. And you're pledging, I'm not just going to order sell-through. You're going to order more to help support the industry. Okay, so go ahead and read. That's my prediction. Totally blind. Go ahead.
It says the Comet Standard, a comprehensive data standard for use with comics products sold in the direct market, has been created by a committee of industry stakeholders to set uniform expectations for data format, contents, and product categorization. By signing on this document, the Comic Code, you commit to making data compliance a company priority, with the understanding that changing the process around data requires resources and time. Members of the Comic Code agree to work toward progressive milestones for data improvement in the compliance with Comet Standard. Signatories recognize that the Comet Standard is intended to be a living standard and will participate in ongoing collaboration to shape and improve the standard. They will also ensure that company procedures around comics products are kept up to date as the standard evolves. The core of the Comet Metadata project is in the recognition that the standard, clean data, will benefit all aspects of the direct market, including customers, retailers, software vendors, distributors, and publishers. So are they just asking that everybody use the same vernacular on right. Stuff? Is that what they're asking?
So basically what happened was we had, and I don't know if it's still available now, we had what was called Comic Suite. And everybody that subscribed to Comic Suite, all those numbers were actually put into this system as a whole through Diamond. Unfortunately, Diamond never actually hit the switch to get all the information from all the stores because...
no, they did. They just never shared it.
Right, they never shared it to the public. And so what we are very good at in the comic book industry, and we're the only industry that does this, we base success on wholesale numbers. We don't base them on sale numbers, which every industry bases it on sale numbers. I don't know how you get individual store owners to comply with all the different computer systems that we do, the price setting that we do, that you could actually make this happen as a company, as a blanket, as a whole. I'm sure you can get the comic pro people to do it, but I don't think this would be a standard that many stores would do.
Just to let the audience know, and this is one of the things I love about doing this show with Jesse. Jesse and I have been ahead on almost all of these procedures 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Jesse and I put together a core of 10 stores that all had Comic Suite when we were both selling new. What was it, 10 years ago, Jesse?
Yeah,
you were
10 years. Yeah. Yep.
And we were like, hey, we'd like to collate this data ourselves, Diamond. And then I actually tagged everybody, including Rich Johnston and Heidi McDonald, and they both chimed in and goes, we'll help pay for it. We would love to see what the sell-through is of 10 core stores, which at the time would have been 5%, of the stores. And we would love to see that collated data between these 10 stores and maybe expand it to 20 stores. Diamond literally put the hammer down on that idea. They said, if you share any data, and I don't know if they read you the riot act, Jesse, but they told me if I share any data that's I will be sued because that is proprietary data
Proprietary
that I'm
information.
not allowed to
Yep.
share. And so they put the hammer down because the thing is they don't want anyone to know what the actual sell-through is on 10 stores, on 20 stores, on one store. And this is kind of them trying to end run that.
It sounds like what they're asking, and I could be wrong. It sounds like they're asking, they want everybody to use the same vernacular on stuff. And if that's just what they're asking, which I doubt it, I doubt they want something that isn't,
well, and
up
then,
to things.
but
But what I mean by this, hold on. This what I mean by this is like, we're always saying, okay, what is the golden age? It's from this date to this date. What is the silver age? From this date to this date. Okay, what is a first appearance? What is a cameo? What is a that type of thing? And they're saying, okay, here's an example. It says here, during the creation of the data formats and standards, atomic data was a guiding principle for our thought process. Atomic data is data that is broken down into the smallest useful parts. As an example, the title, Something is Killing the Children, #1, Fall, the House of Slaughter, Art Germ, Full Art, Mature, breaks down into several atomic components. So they're saying, like, when you have this as the data, like, there's like 5 different subsets that it should be in, and people are just putting this instead of, oh, here's the title, that's the issue number, this is the subtitle, here's the cover description, that type of shit.
Here's the thing. This is what, anytime I hear Comics Pro wax about some policy or decision they want, there's always a secondary thing. And first of all, I know they love Comics Hub, so I'm sure all of this data is probably included in the Comics Hub software. And the people who want to get this data are people like Brian Hibbs, who's a total number cruncher and a total, they want to know variant versus main cover. They want to be able to exclude
So do
data
I, though. So do collectors, though, don't we?
No, we do. But the thing is do you want every retailer to have to this is more work than, I guarantee you 90% of the stores that are out there want to do.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I just look at this is, listen, we already have a lot on our plate, and to do something like this where we're all going to come together, I would have to see something like a 95% compliance throughout all the stores, the 1,500 stores, to even attempt to do this.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to go through all these standards. And I already have to do with eBay. I have to do with my systems. And so now I got to do it as a company standard. I don't know how much that turns the keys to sell one more book. And maybe they do a tester on this and
maybe we should
10
get them on the
do it.
show. Let's get them on the show and help explain
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
I would love to hear that.
All right.
One of the things, but Jesse's absolutely right, though. All of that data could be here's what the thing is I think they want the publishers to first produce that data and then input that data into some kind of software where retailers would then input other numbers at a later date. This is more of trying to wag the dog of the publishers to come up with a comprehensive, because Marvel used to say, Star Wars #1 2015 sold 250,000 copies, but you didn't know how many was cover A, how many was the 1 in 10, how many was the 1 in 20, so you didn't know what the breakdown was. And if Marvel just basically said, yada, 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 guys, we're just telling you Star Wars sold 250,000. We're not going to do all this other work to break all these other things down. Yeah. That's highly possible that this is kind of trying to wag that dog. And if they feel they can, get Boom to do it or Mad Cave to do it, or, and then maybe push Image to do it, then they can share the data within themselves outside of Diamond or whatever, and just use Lunar and Penguin, to collate that. I just think that there's always an ulterior motive when C Pro is trying to do something.
At the end of the day, this is something for the publishers to do. I don't think a comic book store has to do this. I think they need to subcategorize it before it even gets out. And then if someone feels that they want to follow that system, that's great. Listen, at the end of the day, it's turn rate, sell-throughs, bottom lines. And that's all that matters in business. This stuff is fluff stuff. And if stores want to do it, congratulations. Or if this is made for publishers only and the store follows that guideline, that's awesome.
I'll give you a perfect example. So, Secret Wars 5 just hit huge, right? Everybody had to have its Deadpool trailer. And I was like, oh, crap, cool. I got a ton of those. And so I actually pulled the old cycle sheet because I did handwritten cycle sheets on the back of all my books. We ordered 150 of those. We sold 56 of them on sell-through of the main cover. And then the other variants, we had small hashtags for the rest of that. I had all that data, and then of course that data would also be in my comic suite, but I never knew how to collate that data, or be able to collect it and spit it out because and that's the other thing. Most of these retailers are all boomers like me who don't know how to turn on Discord. So you sit there and you go, how are we gonna?
Yeah, most stores don't have scanners, and I think so. I think this is a gradual thing. And listen, they're throwing out 10 things are then try, and 7 of these are then be successful, and the other 3 will go back and they'll reorganize it. But I think
here's some of the good ones, right? So the third one, Marvel Must-Have Comics. Marvel Comics has announced a series of free issues called Marvel Must-Haves, featuring iconic stories to engage fans and attract new readers. The first one-shot includes Spider-Man, Deadpool #1 from 2016, Immortal Thor from #2, Miss Marvel, and the New Mutant #1. So they're just reprinting facts. They're just reprinting stuff to give away for free. Who cares about that? I don't care about that. All right, moving on.
And Marvel is going to probably do that anyway. And now, so T-Pro gets to put this as a feather in their cap.
Yeah, who cares? $3.99 comic price point. Marvel Comics will emphasize the $3.99 price point for most issues, as stated by Dan Buckley, president of Marvel Entertainment. But here's the thing. They're only keeping 50% of the issues that they put out at $3.99. The other 50% will stay at $4.99. This is more bullshit.
And it actually just popped up on my feed from 9 years ago. DC announced holding the line at $2.99, and everybody went nuts. And I was like, yeah, but then, and the second sentence of that, they're making Batman 2 times a month, and they're making this, So it's like, okay, so are you going to hold the line at $3.99, but you're going to also make sure you only release 1 Spider-Man per month of each title? Because if you really want to get that $7.99, you're just going to double the increase on your production so that you're getting a new Spider-Man of that title 2 times a month. So you're making the same $7.99 from retailers.
Yeah, I think when you go down this route of price adjustments, it's kind of like you go in one day and Monster drinks are buy one get one, and I went in today. Oh no, if you buy 2, you get the third one free. Oh, okay. So they conditioned me from buying 1 to get 1 free to buying 2 to get 1 free.
Well, in Arizona iced tea, you get the 99-cent one, but then all of a sudden they release 10 new flavors, and they don't have the 99-cent on them. And when you go ring them up, they're $1.50.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think when you see this is kind of a punch in the face. Oh my gosh, we're doing this, because they're not looking at retailers here. They're looking at the fans on this announcement. The fan is going to react. It's kind of like when you buy a TV and you guys sign the contract at the end, or even a house or whatever. You're not reading everything, right? And I think in this, no one's reading it like we're reading it as retailers. I think a fan says, "Oh, my Black Panther is now $3.99 again." Great, cool. I don't think this is big news. I think for a retailer, I think
it's good news.
It's good news. I think it's good news for the fan. As far as the retailer, we're just selling the same amount of books, no matter what.
But this is also what I do love about this is this is a tiered assault, which I actually had Marvel and DC at San Diego one year, and I pitched him an idea that we needed these entry-level positions of different comic books. And I suggested, hey, let's get a comic book in boxes of cereal, and then we'll get a comic book for $1 that we can sell cheap in our stores. And then you keep these numbers at $2.99, $3.99 on these rest of these comics so we can get them at these different tiers. This is what Marvel's doing, and I commend them on that, because that's what we need. We need this. We need the cheap entry level. We need the secondary level, and that's what I'm doing with my No New Comics comic store. I have $2.99, 3 for $5 comics. I have $5 3 for 10. I have $10 3 for 20s for the variants and key back issues. And it's working for me because I'm giving them different price points to enter.
Right. And I don't think you're going to sell more books just because you went down to $3.99. I just think you're going to sell the same books at $3.99 and the same amounts.
Next, DC talked about some upcoming projects they're doing, and then they said new releases will also return to Wednesdays later this year. So back to the Wednesdays, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. The Wednesday is a sacred day, all right, in comics. It used to be a Friday. It was a Wednesday for a while. I like Wednesdays. Keep it on Wednesday.
And here's the thing. Oh, go ahead, Jesse.
I was just going to say that's I think DC wanted to come out and do a placement and say, hey, we're going to self-distribute through another distributor. And what we're also then do is we're then come out on Tuesday. So I think that was just a DC statement. They've made their point, and now they're then be more standardized.
I think it's more than that, Jesse. If you remember back to those retailer summits going back to 2009, 10, 11, this same group of people, Comics Pro, were always the ones that would stand up at summits and go, can we get New Comic Day on Tuesdays? Because DVDs and books release on Tuesdays and all the other media releases on Tuesdays. So we should release on Tuesdays too so we can get, into those markets. And I'm like, look, we need the Monday to do the FOC. We need the Tuesday to prep the backing boards and all this kind of stuff. We need to keep on Wednesday. And they're like, no, we got to get with the times because DVDs come out and video games come out on Tuesdays and we should be Tuesdays. I'm like, you want to fight the video game market? You want to fight Walmart for DVD sales? You're not getting it. And I honestly think that when the different things changed with DC probably had an ear closer to Comics Pro and these people saying we need to be Tuesday. And they were like, well, we can do Tuesday. Yeah, why can't we'll beat Marvel to the punch. And I don't think it worked as good as they thought, or they wouldn't have gone back on it.
This is interesting. It says here, Image Comics, the next one, Image Comics Retailer Appreciation Award. Image Comics introduced a Retailer Appreciation Award to recognize members of the comic book direct market retail community. You can nominate an LCS via this link. Now, hold on here. Here's the funny part. Are they can anybody be part of this thing? Can it be brick and mortar stores only, or is it anybody that has an account through them?
All right, let's all go nominate Bry's Comics for Retailer Appreciation Award.
Well, you can't, my friend. You want to know why? Because it's down.
Yep.
Oh, this reminds me. So when I was fighting C-Pro and everything they stood for, we were at C2E2, and there was a retailer summit before C2E2, and at the retailer summit, C-Pro was like, come and see us at our booth on the floor of C2E2. And every couple hours I would go by and I would snap a picture of an empty C-Pro booth with no one manning it, with just papers out on top of the table. And I would just post it to Facebook. Yep, nobody's at C-Pro. Dennis, we just happened to go to the bathroom that time. Well, here's 2 hours later. Nobody's sitting at your booth at C-Pro, and now they got a broken link for the Image Appreciation Award. They talk a big talk, but when it comes to pedal to the metal or rubber meets the road, they fall short every time.
So there was some kickback from some retailers on this. I don't see a technical problem for this. I think publishers give out awards, trust me, every day to stores, not quarterly awards. No, hey, we got to take care of this store. Hey, this guy ordered, let's take care of this store. When you get into the back end of this business, you understand that people are getting awarded. They're getting awarded much more than just waiting for an actual award.
Yeah, we want things to show up on time. We want your books to come out on time. We want this to happen. That's how you can reward us. You don't have to give me a piece of paper
you don't
saying
have to give an award for this. But again, some people like awards, and maybe there are people out there striving to get that first Image award on their counter, and good for them.
And I will say this also, because Bryan's here and 99's in the chat, and I've said this a million times, this is a form of compliance. When Jesse was talking earlier before I came on, it's about when you get that access, when you get your Image award, Image is going to expect you to buy 10 copies of every new Image release. You know, they're going to be like, hey, we saw that you didn't order our new special, comic book that we were really pushing hard. We saw you only ordered 20 copies, and can we get you to get that up to 40 copies? Or this is another way to influence someone who's supposed to be your customer. And I do feel like it's an influence move.
Well, if there's any retailers out there, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. We'll get you on the show, and maybe we'll find out who the first award winner is for spring and bring them on and see what they think about it. Next, Boom Studios initiatives. Boom Studios highlighted anniversary issues of James Tynan's works, the return of Erica Slaughter series, Jason Aaron's new Berserker series. They also announced a deep discount sale to support comic shops. Great. That's all great. Yeah.
I'll just be real quick on Boom. Whatever Boom does, I support them. They have been one of my biggest supporters. Ross and Philip are just the best of the best.
Yep.
No, and I'll absolutely agree with that. And not just that, Boom and I think Skybound's probably the only person I feel is one level higher than even Boom's retail support. Boom had that Boom influencer, where if you ordered a certain book, they were all returnable. If you ordered a certain level, I forget what it was called, but Boom has always been progressive with all of those kind of systems. The only person bigger than that was just Kirkman, who was like, I got so much fucking money, just send everybody Negan Lives during COVID and let them have it for free.
Yeah, he was awesome.
That's the only thing that I think you could do better than what Ross Ritchie and Philip Savick do at Boom, is be like Kirkman, but you have to have that Walking Dead fuck you money to be able to do that.
Yeah. And then finally, Mad Cave Studios licensed properties. Mad Cave Studios plans to leverage licensed properties like Dick Tracy, Gotcha Man, and Flash Gordon for a slate of main titles, side titles, and one-shots. And then we also heard about the EC stuff on that same type of level. So that's interesting.
Well, and can I say one thing real quick?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been 18 years, like I said, 19 years as of March 1st when I opened my store. I went to my first retailer summit that September in Baltimore, 2005. Almost immediately, the one question I'd always ask after hearing all of these publishers get up on stage and do their little shuffle and their dance and their, hey, get excited for this and that, I'm like, how is this going to change the industry? Is this just me trying to get you to buy more of my book? What's going to move the needle on this industry? And I'll tell you, there's been a lot of moments where I've seen that needle move, where it's like, I saw so many customers come in literally the morning after the season finale of season 2 of The Walking Dead, when the little girl came out of the barn. The next morning, I had people, I have to read the comic books. I have to know. And then Obama meeting Spider-Man. It brought people I'd never seen in a comic book store into the store. That was 2009. That was just 15 years ago, anniversary last month. Starboy, what's his name?
Weekend
presents Starboy. I never saw more interested new customers come in so there's all of these moments. Berserker, Keanu Reeves brought in tons of people. So when I see an announcement, and no offense, Mad Cave, I like Mad Cave. First time I saw them, I've seen the stuff they've done since. It's not enough to make me just pull the trigger on going back to selling new comics. But I'll say, I don't think any of those announcements change the industry.
Well, I think what everybody's job is, even us talking here, is to inspire people, to give them hope that tomorrow they can open up their stores and sell one more book more than they normally would sell. And a lot of times back in the day, listen, if I knew Boom had my back, I was selling a lot of Power Rangers. If Dynamite had my back, oh my gosh, I was selling Bob's Burgers like no tomorrow. If Oni had my back, I was selling Rick and Morty's like there was no tomorrow. So we need to be inspired, not just how they're changing the industry, but are we inspired to go out and do this?
One of my favorite quotes after so many of these presentations was the quote from Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men, when he's talking to Tom Cruise there at the end. And he's like, please, is that all you have for me?
Yep.
Tell me you didn't just stake these soldiers' lives on
a phone call.
A phone call. And
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I watch these guys come off and I'm like, and we're going to give an extra 5% off all of our trade paperbacks next month.
Right.
I listened to you for 30 minutes and all you tell me is you're going to give an extra 5% off on trade paperback restock. Tell me you have something else.
Yeah.
I'm looking at ICV2's numbers that say we're down 20% in the industry in trade paperback sales. Your extra 5%, me paying you to buy more of your stuff that's selling 20% less, is not going to help this industry. It's going to help you sell more trade paperbacks.
Right.
And that's what I think it gets into.
Yeah. And I think the big thing is as a retailer, you need to have a relationship with these publishers so that you're not waiting for a retailer summit. You're not waiting for a Comics Pro thing. You're not waiting for an article to come out on Bleeding Cool. You have that communication where they're having someone call you and say, oh, by the way, Jesse, this is what we're doing going forward. This is how the process works. I've always had a great relationship with every single publisher but two. And other than that, the rest of the publishers are on my speed dial. I can give them a call and bam, let's figure this out. I think when you start putting borders in front of you and not allowing yourself to be real partners with every single publishers, that's when it hurts you. Listen, I'll make one more point. Retailer summits isn't about sitting at that table listening to someone saying I'm going to give you 5%. It's about being at dinner with them and having a great dinner with them and talking about comics.
Well, a lot of people think it's about these variants that they give away for free.
No.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to that in a second, Brian, though. I want to add one more thing to Jesse's statement. For me, you know what the retailer summits were more about? Sitting across from that retailer who I'd never met before, finding out what their secret is.
Sure.
What are you doing different than what I'm doing? I built relationships with Jesse, with Jen, with Aaron. Those pictures that you and I took at all those retailer summits or image breakfast.
Everywhere.
And you would see all of those retailers that were in our circle. We moved each other. We made each other better. Yeah. And for me, that was worth more value than, Brian, go ahead and hit it, the stupid piece of paper that they limitedly made scarce to give to us to make us, money to pay for our hotel and our flight. That's really all it was.
Yeah, these are all the variants that they gave out that are probably now selling for a couple $100 online. Sure. Yeah.
Yep. So. And that's to the retailers that have the savvy to sell them online. Mm-hmm. Again, I will tell you, I've walked into retailer shops and I have a lot of good friends in the retailer world that still have all these books. To them, it's a gift to them. They don't want to sell them. I think when you look at every single item as something that you sell, I don't think that's my goal in the industry. My goal is to sell a product that people want or I can suggest to them. But there are stuff that I do keep from conventions to say, hey, you know what? I went there. I've been very fortunate. I've won, a ton of awards at these conventions and being up on stage and looking into the crowds and all that. And when you bring something back that is yours, that is given at the retailer convention, and you can look at that and have some good memories for it. So I wouldn't say every retailer is selling this for a profit. A good portion of them are, but there are some that come away from a retailer summit or Comics Pro summit with bigger things than just the announcements that are made. New handshakes, photos. Those are the biggest things you bring back from these events.
This is, I just want to give a quick shout out to Tony Fleece and Trish Forstner and the creators over there at Feral, the other creators at Feral that are doing this series. You guys all know we're big fans of Tony and Trish on Beyond Wednesdays. And this, to me, is the book to get at Comics Pro this week. So if you guys are out there looking and want to try and
here's what I'll say about this. Robert Kirkman got more mileage off of that Walking Dead 100 thank you that he signed and gave to every store that ordered Walking Dead. Trish and Tony got more coverage off of that acetate that they sent to every one of the retailers that ordered, Stray Dogs. So you sit there and you go, yes, this is cool. This is just more of thank you for coming to our annual sorority mixer. I want to see it. And this is Jesse and I fought about this all the time against other retailers and publishers was if you're going to do something for one, you need to be doing it for everybody.
Yep.
And this was one of the kind of the tent poles that we kind of started with our relationship. Yes, we would do our own variants and Jesse had his own relationship. I had my own relationship. But when somebody would be like, oh, hey, here you go. And I'll tell you a little secret also. Back when I used to track eBay sales, I noticed that certain stores that also were members of Comics Pro's executive board would somehow they wouldn't just get the one, they would have 5 or 6 sales throughout a couple months. So once again, when you're the popular clique, you can take as many as you want. Whereas you're dishing out the one per to all of the plebes that have paid you to be a member.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, just a reminder to everybody that Feral is on FOC, I believe, this week. So you got 1 week to order it. Go make sure you order it.
And as retailers, we really understand our relation. There's a question about most retailers are great at messaging. I don't think a lot of retailers are coached or know how to
massaging relationships. Yeah.
If we had programs that were in play that said, "Hey, here's how you approach a publisher at a table," or "This is how you do," that's never going to happen.
But Jesse, that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
We're telling we're giving more value on Bryan's free show than I guarantee you most of those people learned from C-Pro meeting. And one of the things, keep it thorough in the comments. Does the comic book industry really do anything to help retailers? I came across, part of my first epiphany was, I forget the quote, but somebody in the chat can, when you're looking around to see who the sucker is, you're probably the sucker. And when I realized this was back at like C2E2 2012-ish, somewhere around there. And I remember it was like it was Dark Horse, and I love the guys at Dark Horse. And they were like, and guys, the new exciting, we're re-releasing XL Man of War, and we're re-releasing Solar, Man of the Atom, and we've got this writer who, is a 25, 30-year veteran, and we've got this artist to do. And I was just like, holy shit. And I'm looking around the room, and it's all, people with gray beards like this, and, that we now have. And I had brown hair back then. I'm like, oh my God, they're just trying to sell to us. They don't care if there's a customer waiting at the other end of that.
That's interesting.
Yep.
And so when you're looking around the room to figure out who the sucker is, it might just be you.
Yeah. There is a big separation from wholesale to retail, and wholesalers are coached on wholesaling to sell to us as the buyers, right? And then we're coached, obviously, to sell to the customers as our buyers. And so there's this line. Now, industry has changed and the industry has pivoted so that people can do Kickstarters and crowdfunding, and
which we're going to get into quite a bit on this show in the future.
And so I think what we have to realize is a customer buying comics, and how can we be part of that in that pie to that customer, and where do we sit with those customers is very interesting. I'll give you a prime example. When I go eBay Live and there's already 3 shows on, and I go on, my job, no matter how nice of a guy I think I am, is to pull those customers from those other 3 shows. And by doing that is by giving great service, doing a great show and presenting very well, giving great comic book therapy, so that people remember when they see my brand. And I think when publishers they see certain brands, and those certain brands get the little better service at these conventions, or they get the better handshake, and we know how the handshakes work. So our job is just to make our brand more presentable, both to the wholesaler and both to the retailer, or I mean to the wholesaler and the buyer.
One of my favorite stories to tell was there was this amazing 6 months, maybe it might have been 9 months, when Chuck, and I can never pronounce his last name, Petuniak.
Yeah.
Palahniuk? Is it
Palahniuk.
That when he did Fight Club 2.
Yeah.
And every month and a half, when the new issue would come out, this guy who didn't need the comic book industry, he didn't. He could sit on his ass for the rest of his life counting money and never get to the end of the pile. And this guy sold every freaking issue like it was some of these retailers selling issue number 1 to retailers.
Yep.
Like, and I see a lot of these writers and creators and artists, and they only push issue number 1. They push it at FOC time and on initial order time, and they might give a second thought about, hey, by the way, this new book just hit the stands. You know, you might want to go out and pick it up at your local LCS. But the second that issue hits and they know what the numbers are, there's never a follow-through on issue 2. Chuck P. sold issue 3 like it was issue 1. He sold issue 4 like it was issue 1.
Well,
and I would take his post and I would share it, and I'd tag 5 or 6 comic creators. And I'm like, if you sold your book on issue 4 like Chuck P sells his issue 4, you would be way more successful right now. But the second they realize, 20,000 initial, 10,000 on issue 2, 5,000 on issue 3. Fuck, I'm not going to make any money out of this. I'm going to move on to pushing the next number 1.
We're pretty far into tonight, so we're going to end this here shortly. But one of the things that I want to get in, here's some of the future topics that we're going to have on this show, you guys, and coming up. I want to talk about current writing in comics and that move. I want to talk about crowdfunding. I want to talk about printing and quality. That type of stuff. We're also going to talk to other creators and other retailers and other shop owners. We're going to bring those people on. These 2 guys have some of the best allies in comics and know everybody there is to know. And I'm going to do my best to bug them to bring those people on.
And I just want to push this as well to everybody in the chat. How many people do we have in the chat right now?
80 people.
80 people. And I think we hit up to 100 at some point, and then we've been floating around there. First of all, hit the like button on this. Get the algorithm up on this. But secondly, if you're a fan and you've got a local LCS, share this to them. Let them hear this. Let them hear these things. Jesse was saying that we don't have people to mentor them. One of the things that I love more than anything else is to sit at San Diego and just if a new retailer comes up, hey, I heard what you said. Hey, man, thanks a lot. That's how I met Mel for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Mel saw me drop that box of Damaged Comics on the floor at the retailer summit. And he was like, oh, my God, I got to meet that guy. And when he talked to me, it's like, hey, yeah, this is we just, you have to be able to stand up to these people. So first step, get this up to where it needs to be. Second, share it with your retailer, with your LCS, share it with 10 LCSs. And lastly, make sure you're commenting, make sure you're feeding us more information on what we can do to make this show more what you're looking for out of an industry show like this.
And my one point is, I just want to tell you, we're in the trenches every day. Listen, I'm doing this show. Dennis is doing this show. We got sales on eBay. He's got sales on Amazon. I got pack messages we got to get back to. So we get blindsided a lot on what the actual buyer wants or what they want to even hear, right? So anything that you think you want to hear that even sounds so north or south of whatever, just let us know, because again, we have blinders on. And I was telling the story today. Listen, I haven't shipped in 10 years, and I've had to do the shipping all in Florida, and I'm taking me 3, 4, 5 hours to ship. Right?
All I could think was cringe. God, if I had to ship stuff.
And my guys in Arizona is like, why is it taking you 3 to 5 hours? It only takes us an hour to ship $500. And I'm like, well, I got to retrain myself, right?
I started selling on Amazon in 2009, and I have not. I shipped maybe 2 days in the last 16 years. Is it 9 to however many years that is?
Well, we ship out. Well, the crazy part is we ship out 3,000 to 5,000 books a week. And so when you're shipping out that many books and you're not actually as the owner, I don't want to do that. I've already done my time. And so here I'm shipping a 10th, and I'm tired. I'm like, holy cow, I got to take this to the post office. What? So like I said, we are here to listen to you. It's just not you listening to us. And I think that's the biggest thing.
And we're going to do that right here. We're going to end the show. Shout out to Haven for Heroes. We're going to have Emmett on the next show if he can be with us. That's the plan. He put out a really good video on his channel, Haven for Heroes, that talking about gatekeeping and Comics Pro. And I want to play some of this. Let's go ahead and do this.
I haven't even watched this yet, so I'm excited to watch
this. Is great. Yeah.
Completely handing over all the youth to manga. I do carry a little bit of manga also. I had gotten rid of all of it, but I've had some traded in recently, so I have a used section of manga. I don't bring in a lot of new stuff because it's very hard. They don't keep them all in print, so it's very hard to get number ones, and people don't want to start off in the middle, so on and so forth. You guys don't want to hear the whole song and dance on that. But anyway, I was upset about that, so I was a little bit animated, and so I put in to join because I wanted to go to, in Pittsburgh is going to be this coming up weekend or the next one. I think it's this weekend. There's going to be the big Comics Pro get together. So I wanted to go to that. So I applied in October because they had a deal, special deal. You get $200 off joining, and Emmett, there's nothing that Emmett doesn't like more than a deal. So I said, well, I would like to go to that in February and some networking with some people and get some information for my channel and stuff like that. And so I sent my application in and I didn't hear anything. So I sent an email and the president said, oh, I forwarded this to the guy who's in charge of membership and he'll be getting back to you. Well, he never got back to me. So I messaged again and I CC'd that guy and he still didn't message me back. But the president messaged me back and said, well, I don't know what's going on. He's handling it. Okay, fine. So I get to another email. I said, well, listen, I'm not worried about getting it for $199. I'll pay the full $399. I just filled out a new application. Please process it because I would really like to get my hotel for the event. I didn't hear anything for 10 days. So my last email was, it said you are either gatekeepers or incompetent. Either way, I don't want to be part of your organization. So I'm sure I'm never going to be allowed to be a part of Comics Pro. A buddy of mine had been president a long time ago, and he asked me to join, and it was when I first started the shop. I really couldn't afford that extra $200, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so I didn't join.
That's a very important thing right there. When I first saw that and he said that in here, we forget that a lot of these people that are starting comic book shops, it's their, they already have a 9 to 5 that they're doing it to. They have a family, they have to, the time they spend in those shops, they can't spend as much time in there, just like they can't spend as much money in there. And $400-$200 to do all this is a lot of money.
Okay, but Brian, you're missing a bigger point to this entire thing. Why do they need $200 or $400? If they want strength in numbers, if they want all of this other stuff, boom, I guarantee you, go back over to that list. Marvel, DC, boom, manga, Vault, all those people paid money to go to that summit and get all of these retailers in front of them to push whatever they were going to push. Figure out a way to run your little organization and your little advisory boards off of that money. And if you want 500, if you want 1,000 retailers at your event, it's free. Yeah. Why do you want to make Emmett jump through hoops and pay you $200 or $400? It's mind-boggling. And guess what? I paid that. I think it was a deal at one of the things, and it was I think it was like $200 or $250 the first year I joined, the only year I joined, and I got to go to the little fun thing down in Kentucky. It was right across the border from Diamond's warehouse, and I show up there, and I paid to go there, and I said, "What? Excuse me, why are we having Comixology here?" Dennis, pipe down. I'm like, I paid to be here. Fuck you. You're not going to tell me to pipe down. Yeah. Okay. And then it was like, okay, well, and also we're gonna blah 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 blah. And I'm like, excuse me, why aren't we holding these to these people? That publisher right there, 3 of their books that I relied on for sales
were late.
Didn't come in on time. Never finished. And why aren't we holding their feet to the fire? Dennis, we just want them to come here so they can pitch what they want to you because they're paying us to be here to talk to you. Then I'm not paying. Make them pay for me to be here. Right. What am I getting paid to be here? I left my store. You need to pay me to be here. Well, here's your free books. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's the pay. But guess what? You're still paying for those free books.
Yeah. Put that video back up just for a second.
Hold on here.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what part of it is.
Okay.
Well, actually, the video itself. Just go halfway. Just halfway. And just pause it. So what's great, this is what I've learned in my 42 years of selling books, is I have a comic fan first moment on everything. Look at that freaking screen.
It's great, right?
I'm seeing here, I got a blank wall in back. I got a pillow over here. That's a screen. When that came up, I was trying to figure out what books I needed on that shelf first. If he had a wedge figure, that's how you present yourself to the comic book world. Anyways,
so by the way, you guys, setup. Haven for Heroes, go check out his YouTube channel. If you're in the upstate New York area, make sure you guys go check out his shop. And
watch my 3-part interview I did with Emmett back when he first started doing interviews with retailers.
Yep. So, and we're gonna have Emmett on next episode. So next Tuesday, you guys, hopefully Emmett can be here. We'll make sure. But next Tuesday, you guys, we're gonna be doing the show. We're gonna be trying to do the show every Tuesday night live for you guys. And like I said, drop comments below if you guys got people that you want to see on this show. Let us know. We want to know. And if you guys want to hear us talk about things, let us know what those things are. Drop comments below. And we'll see you guys soon. So much love to all you guys. Much love to these guys right here for coming on. And appreciate it, you guys. We'll see you next Tuesday. We're out.
Go see a comic book store.